everybody, welcome back to my channel. This past week we had the Dark Zero / Nerd Street Gamers Pro-Am tournament that crowned Disrupt Gaming the pre-season kings of North America. Maybe I should put this back. Alright, maybe not. It was fun as fuck. One of the big concerns that people had with the new format when it was announced at the start of Year 5 was the revocation of minors. Up until this point, not only had minors been a big part of the competitive circuit in Rainbow Six, but they had also contributed to the qualification of the Six Invitational. The introduction of global standings point, I think personally, is actually a good thing. And while there have been flaws in that system due to COVID, on a regular year, I actually think it would be fine. However, I think getting rid of minors is maybe not so fine. Firstly, I think it's just fun and cool to have these different kinds of tournaments. It adds something fresh and interesting to the main season. It's a little bit of a step back and something different from the long-term season as well. We get different teams get to play each other, and it just adds depth to the competitive circuit with something different to win, something different to see. Secondly, and I think more importantly, it gives the teams who don't qualify for the majors, finals, and SI actually something to compete in the pretty long off-season. In this new format, the off-season for those teams is basically half a year long, and that's a really long time to not be playing. And not only that, but the orgs that represent those teams basically rely solely on the R6 share program to be making revenue from Rainbow Six because they're not getting the exposure from competing. Third-party events are something you're way less likely to find in franchised or near franchise leagues, and it makes a lot of sense why that is. The Overwatch League, for example, the teams aren't going to be super happy when they've paid $60 million for a spot, and then suddenly there's another event that doesn't cost anything to go into, but it has all these sponsorships and viewership and contributes to the same stuff. Rainbow Six isn't a fully franchised league though, and while I totally understand why minors shouldn't or don't contribute to going to the Six Invitational, for example, I don't think that means that there isn't a place for them in our scene. Personally, I love the Pro-Am tournament that we had this week. Having pro teams play in a 4-day tournament against teams that they wouldn't usually play, I think added a really interesting angle to the North American scene in Rainbow Six. It also means that the amateur teams have more of an opportunity to play against teams from outside of Challenger League, and I think that adds a lot of depth to the scene, and it also helps narrow the gap between Tier 1 and Tier 2, and developing that part of the scene is very important for the longevity of the scene as a whole. Especially when you have to consider the fact that these days Challenger League, the opportunity to actually be promoted into Pro League, it only comes around once a year now. So Challenger League teams don't get a ton of opportunity to show themselves up against pro teams, make a name for themselves, build their players up. It's a little bit different in Europe where we have the national leagues, but even then it's not quite the same as having the tournament format. It could be a LAN in normal years. Nothing's ever going to beat that. Even looking back at minors in Siege history, you always get such cool and interesting stories. I mean, DreamHack Montreal 2019, you have G2 going out in groups and then BDS coming third, despite the fact that they'd actually never competed in Pro League ever at that point. You could look at OGA Pit Season 3, where Team Liquid and SSG went up against each other, Team Liquid taking the spot at SI from the future world champions, and those two rosters had never faced each other anyway. The excitement of having a standalone tournament in and of itself just adds so much around the prospect of having minors and having these events. For me, I think that that's just really exciting, and I love being a part of it. So personally, I would like to see more of these, and I think showcasing the teams from the scene that aren't just the top 4 in Tier 1 and having a connection between those and building that bridge is a really solid way of developing the scene, building it up, adding more depth to it, and more than anything, helping build these players so they're getting better and better and the competitive scene is more competitive. It shows off the talent, it shows off the personalities, events are fun, and I don't need to tell anybody that. And having those that you can enjoy outside of the majors and the finals, and having something that lasts a few days up to a week maybe, that brings a lot of joy and interest, but you don't have to have that long-term investment. You don't always have to be tuning in every single day or every single week or whatever. I think that it just adds so much to a scene. So I had a great time at the Pro-Am, and I really, really hope that we get to see more of these. I know that a lot of people, including myself, miss the DreamHacks. Especially from a casting perspective, I always wanted to cast a DreamHack ever since I first started casting way back when. And so to not have them in Siege anymore really sucks because I wanted to cast one. But I really hope this is where we start to see more of these kinds of events come into Rainbow Six. Even if they don't qualify you for the Six Invitational, that's totally fine, because there's so much value that you can get from the events. But I'm really interested to know what you guys think. Let me know. Did you watch the Pro-Am? Do you want to have minors come back? Are you not that interested? Do you think there's too much? How do you think it will affect the teams who you know, aren't in those top 4 spots, who aren't always going to the majors and the finals and have these really long off seasons? Because I think these are a lot of questions that are worth asking. So I'm really interested to know what you guys' opinion is. So let me know in the comments and we can get a discussion going, and I will see you guys very soon. Goodbye.